Welcome to Below the Headline.
The political podcast that looks past the noise.
I'm your host Alicia, and I'm joined by Samson, Benny, Luca and Adam. Let's get on to our topic today, and today we're going to be focusing on whether the May election is going to be the end of the Conservative Party. And so would anybody like to start this debate off?
Sure, I'd be more than happy to. I actually introduced this topic as I believed it would make a fun debate. The inspiration for this debate was, as many have seen, given the very high-profile defection of Robert Jenrick to the Reform Party last week. Nigel Farage quoted multiple times saying that following the May local election, the Conservative Party of the United Kingdom will cease to exist. And I think this is a very bold claim from the politician. He has made bold claims in the past, and generally speaking, when he says something, it happens. It happened with Brexit, at least. So as a result, I think this will be quite interesting. Will the May elections lead to the end of the Conservative Party, or will Kemi Badenoch be able to ride on that sort of popularity wave she's been on since the autumn election?
But, I mean, we're seeing that the Reform Party more and more is becoming staffed with old Conservatives.
Certainly.
In a way, the Reform Party is just becoming the Conservatives, but with a slightly lighter shade of blue. I don't think we'll see the end of the Conservative Party in the next elections.
But can you see why they're bringing on these Tories? It's bringing in the experience that Reform seems to lack a bit, I suppose, or bringing on some top members of the Tories can help them to strive towards power.
Top members of the Tories. Jenrick, what was his face? The Chancellor who's been sacked. I mean, so Reform has marketed itself as a kind of new right for Britain, but more and more they're becoming just another stuffy Conservative Party. I think it's going to not do well for their image generally.
It's interesting. This is like the debate over people saying, should people who defect have to do by-elections? You know, would Jenrick win in Newark?
I don't think he would.
I think it's critical for Reform to have so many old Conservative MPs, especially high up ones, as you just mentioned. With recently, there's quite a well-known quote from Nigel Farage with, we need to get rid of I don't know the exact quote, but he's like, saying we aren't the new Tory party, we get rid of the old dry policies, and it's
the same people, of course.
It's the same people with similar policies, just slightly more radical.
Yep, certainly.
Nigel Farage did say never trust a Tory, but
Yep, there you are.
come on, Adam, you can see his reasoning for bringing on some Tories.
Well,
surely.
it is experience, and I do still believe we need to bring in more of the younger generation. There are loads of young Tories, as there are, but I mean, none of them have done very well with, especially, who's the young 19-year-old who's recently taken over?
Yeah.
The council.
that
It's
guy.
not great.
He's not made himself very popular, has he?
Well, no. I mean, I think he's very inexperienced, and I don't think that 19-year-olds should be responsible for a constituency.
Then again, it wasn't deliberate that he became in charge of that constituency. He was the deputy leader until, of course, the old leader stepped down due to some internal issues, as always there are in the Reform Party. And naturally, George Finch, I believe his name is, he had to step up as the deputy leader. And stepped up he certainly has in more ways than one. As for the Reform base electorate, I believe it is fair to call it an electorate, given they've had electoral success last year in the local elections. Their base will be very pleased with what he's done, because in a way he is rallying the Reform banner as would be expected, though for everyone outside the Reform Party, I imagine it's a bit of a laughingstock.
So who are we saying is actually switching their votes to Reform? I'd like this question to go towards Benny. Do you think it's actually Reform that's stopping people from voting Conservative, or do you think that it's their actual own policies or their trust that they've lost from the public?
I think the thing we're seeing with the Conservatives is they've actually, I mean, both Kemi and Jenrick, the two in the running to be the leader of the Conservative Party, both were very much further right than quite a lot of Conservatives. I think one of the reasons that Jenrick's
His vote in the membership.
well, no, Jenrick's recent chucking out has been greeted with kind of happiness from a lot of Tories, is because they feel it's a chance for them to get back to the
Back to the grassroots.
party. back to a centre-right party rather than a kind of shadow of Nigel Farage. I think one of the reasons they've lost a lot of votes is because they've moved further right.
Something I wanted to note earlier when we're debating reform, bringing in all these Tories, is the very basis of the Reform Party itself, the idea that it was founded on. And to understand this, you need to go back to Canadian politics, because Reform, as a party, began in Canada, believe it or not. In the 1990s, the Conservative Party in Canada, which was actually called the Progressive Conservative Party, if I know my facts correctly, they were limping along. They struggled, they weren't very popular, and in the 1990s, their electorate collapsed completely. Who did it collapse to? It collapsed to the Reform Party in Canada. They took over this position as the right-wing party. They succeeded the Social Credit Party, who I won't go into for numerous reasons, but if you want a rough idea of where they stood in politics, they were basically the Reform UK that we know today, a bit like a UKIP sort of character. This Reform Party, they took all the votes from the right and they split the right completely. So much so that around a decade later, the Unite the Right movement began in Canada. And what this did is it saw the merging of the Reform successor parties. Reform had collapsed by this point into multiple smaller right-wing parties. And the Progressive Conservative Party, which still failed to claim any sort of support in the electorate, they merged to form the Conservative Party of Canada, the Tories, which we have today. I believe that is what Nigel Farage initially led this party on, this idea that he perhaps underestimated himself. He believed the Tory party would implode as he gained more and more support, and eventually they'd be forced into a merger. Now, however, I believe it's completely different. I think Nigel is aware how well he's doing. The British electorate are very easy to sway, and he knows the snake oil, and he's selling it very well. And as a result, he is in this unique position where we've never seen it before in British politics, that the oldest party, the most successful party, not just in British politics, but in European politics as well, is able to be completely squashed out if he's able to ride this momentum. Can he ride this momentum? I'm not entirely confident. When you've got a character as big as Nigel in a party, he's not necessarily going to be able to ride that wave forever. I mean, part of the reason Rob was brought in, Robert Jenrick, is because he can pose as a potential successor to Farage. Just ask yourself the key question. If Nigel Farage were to, say, drop dead tomorrow, what would happen for the Reform Party and their base?
Yep.
Not that he will. This is not a threat.
I'm not. By no means am I saying I'm going to kill Nigel tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I hope not.
I don't endorse
Yeah.
political violence in the
Okay.
slightest.
Yeah, that was an excellent point. Now let's move on to. I'm going to ask Adam a question, if that's okay. So, is reform splitting the right in a way that structurally favours Labour?
I don't think so. With how minor Conservatives have become, like, I'm not sure what the exact numbers are for what percentage of the likely.
They're actually leading Labour in the polls right now. The polls, it's something like Reform, followed by the Greens, followed by the Tories, followed by Labour. That was a poll I saw on.
I don't think it's Labour it's benefiting. I reckon it's the Green Party. With how-
Yes,
Lib
the
Dem.
Green Party, the
The Green
famous
Party.
base of Reform UK.
Like Polanski, God.
I'm sure all those old Tories are going to flock in numbers to the Greens.
Anyway, carry on.
That's not how I mean. I don't mean anyone's going to the Green Party. I mean by with it splitting the right, it gives more of a chance of a vote to for Green to win, because they've still got voters in.
They are. They're really rising. I mean, their popularity has risen so much. But I think that's more with the branding of Zach Polanski. So what do you
Yeah.
think of Reform splitting Labour's votes?
No, how do you mean?
Look, is Reform UK, by doing what it's doing to the Tories, splitting them in half, causing mass defections, causing their base to collapse, is that going to benefit Labour in a positive way?
I don't think anything really can benefit Labour at the minute with how minor of a party they've become. It's not possible.
Well, I thought that the left would be split quite a bit with your party. With
Oh, that's
Look,
not
I
Jeremy Corbyn.
predicted months ago that your party would self-implode when you've got such big
Yeah.
characters as Jeremy Corbyn and Zara
Corbyn.
Sultana trying to found a party that is based on communal voting, you know, the sort of
Open
real
borders.
Karl
Yeah.
Marx, straight out Das Kapital. It's just not going to work. There's
Oh,
a
no.
reason.
I mean, they
But-
couldn't even agree on a name, could they? In the
No.
end?
Exactly.
But if
Just-
people are willing to vote for reform, I mean, I bet people would be going far left and voting for your party. Let's go on to another question. Yeah. So I'm going to give a question now to
Mr. Post
Luca.
Office scandal. Sorry.
Right, I'm going to give a question now to Luca. So, is reform a symptom of conservative decline or one of its causes?
To be honest with you, it's not just a yes or no 100% answer. We've seen lots of
Very
Tories.
pragmatic.
Thank you very much. We've seen lots of Tories going over to reform because of their. It's Nigel Farage, isn't it? That's one of. As Samson said, if he dropped dead, the votes would go down.
You know what they say? You can't barrage the Farage.
You can't barrage Farage. But unless he falls off a tower block in Russia, but
This is not a threat.
Lots of the Conservatives who reform are getting are the kind of waste of the Tory party. I mean, Jenrick was the only kind of was the only big character they were going to get, and of course the Tories ditched him before he had the chance to defect.
yeah.
So does that kind of?
And just going aside from the question, I think what we've seen from Kemi Badenoch, however you want to say it, what we saw the other day, that was good, that was strong from her. And I know the core Tory voters, and maybe those who've been disillusioned a bit with Tory politics, I'm sure that will have pushed them back to Conservative Party because she was strong, she held a strong approach.
Sorry, are you talking
She
about in
used to-
PMQs?
No, we're talking about Kemi
when she
throwing out
sacked
Robert.
Jenrick, yeah.
Oh, of
I mean,
course, yeah,
she has
sorry.
been doing better at PMQs, but when she sacked
I mean, she
sacked
obliterates
Jenrick, she was-
Keir Starmer in PMQs.
Yeah, she does.
But that's not a high.
It's not hard. No, of course not. It's not a hard thing to do, but she does it very well.
No, I mean, yeah.
Poor Starmer farmer.
So, a question for you now, Samson.
Okay.
So, of course, reform has a lot of scrutiny, but do you think that it may collapse over scrutiny, or do you think it's thriving off it?
Or it thrives off media attention, obviously. There couldn't be a more obvious answer to a question.
All publicity
Reform
is
you
good publicity.
Exactly. As Lucas says, look, Reform is the most well broadcasted party by a long shot. It is like Labour before the 2024 election
Yeah, and
when they
follow-up
were getting
questions
all
to
the
that.
attention.
Why are they getting so much attention on the media, and why is there so little attention on, say, Labour?
Nigel Farage.
Yes, sure.
You've got a person
Nigel-
when you've
Nigel
got a personality like that in a party, he just draws in attention.
But let's think a little bit deeper. What are people actually gaining? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, why would you show Keir Starmer compared to Nigel Farage if you want clicks? This is what news channels do. They want clicks. So at the end of the day, if you're the Sun, whose face are you going to put on
I
there?
don't
Nigel Farage or
I don't see anything at all about Polanski. I've literally.
Oh, I do.
I've seen.
I see
It's all
far too
over
much
my
of him. He
For You
needs to get off my For You
TikTok and
page.
Snapchat and stuff, but on good, reputable.
just out of
been on
curiosity, Benny,
Question Times a lot recently.
are you in favour of Zach Polanski?
Who the question I have for you?
yeah.
No. Answer first.
Yes. Are you in favour of Zach
I'm
Polanski?
not at all in favour of Zach Polanski. He's just populism of another kind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, whereas Farage blames the immigrants for everything, Polanski
Blames the
rich,
billionaires.
and
Yeah, he
it's
does.
just
It's lazy.
totally tyrant.
It's lazy politics, just pointing the finger and saying, "Here's the problem. Here's the solution." It is utterly
that's
lazy.
all politics.
That
you know.
That's what
politics
politics
does
is
well.
now, though.
but-
It's what it's become. It's just Instagram, Facebook, whatever. It's just fueled by social
And so,
media.
what's the solution, though? I mean, in an age where social media dominates politics, what can we actually do to prevent it?
I'd say education, but that doesn't seem to really work.
Well, education, it's certainly a step in the right direction, but there's a very large time gap between when you educate somebody and when they go into the world and they're able to vote. And so what would be a kind of, I wouldn't say immediate, because there's no immediate solution, but what would be a step in the right direction towards a world where politics is based on actual progress rather
Oh, you'll
than...
never reach that world. That's a completely utopian idea, and it will never happen. If you want the closest thing to it,
Well, that's a little bit negative.
if you want
What
the
if we were to...
if you want the closest thing to it, let's just stay the course. Nigel Farage will be in number 10 in 2029, and you can watch what happens, and that will be the solution.
Samson
Hot take.
didn't a minute ago you
That
said
is
that reform
not
were
a
gonna fall off.
solution.
No, I said it was a
okay.
hypothetical.
The question for you, Luca, is
Yes, Benny.
who is a Conservative voter? Because I can see
Who's
I
a
can,
Conservative voter? The people who've grown up in country homes and their family voted Tory
Well,
for
they
hundreds
would
of
vote-
years. They're not switching to reform.
It used to be kind
No,
of traditionalists,
no,
but
no.
it seems that so many people of different backgrounds
lots
are
of
going into
traditionalists are
reform now.
switching to the Liberal Democrats and other parties. Yes, the Liberal
I've never seen a
Democrats.
Lib Democrat wearing tweed in a barber shop.
I
very
literally
much.
have. That is their.
While I see Benny's point, because I have noticed this as well, I also slightly disagree with it, because those who are sensible enough will remember the effects the last time Liberal Democrats were in government were, which was the coalition, the famously popular coalition, in which all they could really do was bring forth referendums. If the Lib Dems didn't stigmatise these referendums so much and normalise them, we wouldn't have had Brexit.
They were in a coalition. That wasn't a proper Lib Dem government, and I don't think.
Oh.
So
So if they f***ed up with 50% of the reins, imagine how much they'd f*** up with 100% of the reins.
No swearing on the podcast, please.
Censor that, can't you?
Of course I can. Okay, should we go on to...
Wait, hang on. I've got an interesting topic.
Go ahead.
Okay. Can we see another coalition government in 2029, whenever it is, with Reform and Tories?
No.
What's your thoughts on this?
Reform.
I can't see a coalition government with Reform and the Tories, but I can see a rainbow coalition on the left.
Oh,
Green and
yeah,
Labour.
red, green, orange, woohoo. Worked so well in Germany, didn't it?
It's gonna work better than a conservative Reform government.
Which parties are you referring to, though?
The
Yeah, for
Yeah,
those
Red,
who-
green,
I entirely
and,
agree, yeah.
and
Yep.
potentially the Lib Dem. I mean, actually, no, it'd be potentially the Greens. It depends how many gains they make. Who are going to be? Okay, so the question is, May elections. It's too early to judge.
Well, which
but
one?
By your estimation,
The May elections, the ones which aren't cancelled. But
by your
carry on.
estimation, who are going to be the winners and the losers?
Winners, Reform and the Greens.
Yeah.
Losers, everyone else.
I don't know.
I mean,
And the
Come on,
Lib
we've-
Dems will
we've
be in
been-
this murky middle area where they get some Tory seats, but they lose their own seats.
yeah, well, they always end up like that anyway.
Yeah, but
No,
the thing
but
is that
just-
there's time until the elections, and I think that the longer Reform are popular, they're going to become a lot more unpopular because of the way that they're handling things. I mean, especially when it comes to, say, all the asylum treatings. I mean, many people in the UK do not support that. They do not support asylum seekers being attacked. And so I do wonder if it's just a matter of time before they do turn into just...
Have seen kind of
Passing
third
moment.
parties evaporate before what are they called? The socialists.
Social Democrats.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about. There was a Social Democrat Party in the
They feel-
80s and 90s, and they just slowly disintegrated until they merged with the Liberal Party to form the modern
Yeah.
Liberal
But
Democrats.
to be
But I
fair,
don't
I mean,
think-
this is on a very large
I
scale.
don't think we're seeing that happen to Reform. I mean, you see
How many
videos.
MPs did they have?
They didn't have any MPs, but
Ah,
they were
okay. So
polling really well.
Yeah.
And everyone thought they were going to take over
Yeah.
Labour.
I mean, they're even in charge of Lancashire now.
Was that nationally or locally?
That was nationally, but never materialised. But I mean, you see these videos, kind of Starmer's Britain, and it's immigrants beating people, and you know, Reform just posts them, and they seem to do totally fine. I mean, there's never any pushback, and that would have been totally unthinkable.
Ooh, I think there is pushback. It's just
Didn't
very
think there's any
limited.
pushback.
Yeah, but when you've got the pushback coming from someone as reliable as Zach Polanski, who once tried to convince a woman that her breasts had grown through hypnosis,
We all know.
it's not very reliable, is it?
Keir Starmer also does push back on it.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
It's weak.
Old
okay,
faithful.
it's-
Wet flannel.
I understand it's entirely weak, but he is, and he is the Prime Minister, and as the Prime Minister, you do have status.
Is he the Prime Minister? He's a delegate. I mean, in a good way. I quite like that as a Prime Minister, but it's not a vote winner. I mean, he's...
You like Keir Starmer as a Prime Minister?
No, I like the idea of delegating. He's a lawyer fundamentally, and he delegates.
That's half the
to
Labour Party,
members
isn't
of
it?
his
North
team.
London,
Yeah, so-
North London lawyers.
No, Benny's actually raised a really good point here, where we've seen two successive governments that have this sort of technocratic nature. We have Rishi Sunak and his technocratic government with some very capable faces and other not so capable faces. And then we have the same thing with Keir. What makes Keir Starmer perhaps different to Rishi, and dare I say more unpopular than Rishi was, is the fact that Keir Starmer himself is not quite so much a technocrat, whereas Rishi Sunak is very much, he's well educated, he comes across as intelligent, he knows the right things to say. Keir Starmer can't even get through a sentence without stumbling over his words.
Yeah, but you'd think that not about stuttering, of course, but the Labour voters would love that. You know, somebody from unprivileged
'cause
background.
his dad was a toolmaker.
Toolmaker, yes,
you didn't
of
know that,
course.
yeah.
Yes.
Grew his tool
just
making
provable.
business into a
Yep.
small to media.
But my point is that he lived in a very basic house and he shared rooms with his siblings. He didn't have kind of privilege, and you would think that the left would adore that, they'd love it and they'd go into it. But he's just made a big mess.
But,
I mean, he had such a majority, and he's just wasted it. He could have done so many better things, and I think especially starting with, say, the winter fuel allowance and inheritance tax.
Inheritance tax.
but
I think it was absolutely stupid of him to start off with that, and it makes me also almost believe that there's people in his government that are trying to sabotage him. Say Rachel Reeves.
oh, it's always streeting.
Yes,
of course.
because no, but the thing is, if you're prime minister, you've got to have some intelligence about you. You've got to know that the first two things that you do shouldn't be things that will harm the people that are voting.
I don't
for
think
you.
it was Keir who really made those calls.
This is my point. So there's somebody, well, probably many people
The unions.
in the party. You think the unions are making
Yes.
them? Come on now.
Absolutely. I think it's the unions.
No.
The fact he just look at the budget and the way they caved into those backbenches. That's no bigger example of good old-fashioned Labour and just the way they do things. And they've got a leader who is by no means good old-fashioned Labour. He belongs more in a centre.
Yeah.
He's not what
He's not.
Labour are about, and that's why Wes Streeting is having his name thrown around. That's why Angela Rayner had her name thrown around when she was actually relevant. She still is relevant to this day. She's still very much the poster girl of the Labour Party.
I mean, I liked Angela Rayner, not because of her policies. but
Angela
because-
Rayner, really?
Hang on, because she was the only one who had a sense of humour about her in that party. I mean,
But no. I think in large part what reform represents is a kind of pushback against the elites and
Oh,
the
yeah.
technocrats, like Samson was talking about. Because Starmer is fundamentally an elite. He's a lawyer. He was served. What was he?
I
He
don't
was
think a
national
lawyer is an
prosecutor.
elite.
And I mean, an elite in the sense of a kind of. Like you were saying, an educated.
I see what you mean.
I
He's
see where you're coming
well-spoken.
from. Yeah.
So you're disagreeing that reform, you're saying they're pushing back against this sort of technocratic style of governance.
Yeah, absolutely. Like.
So you don't believe Britain is broken, Britain needs reform is in some way technocratic, this idea of having people who are unafraid to do what needs to be done and who, once they get in, will be absolutely ruthless in the way they do it. You don't find that technocratic?
No, I don't. Well, more so, I don't find Nigel to be an elite. He's very much. He says that he is.
He is an elite, Benny.
Dulwich.
Come on now.
No, but
College?
he doesn't. That's not his
I'm not
image.
saying there's
It's-
anything
No,
wrong
no,
with
No,
it.
no, no.
His
He,
image.
by no means is Nigel Farage come across as an elite. It's every other post where he's in the pub having a pint with farmers talking about what's befalling them, and quite cleverly he's doing that to claw some more votes from the Tories,
Yeah.
with one of their key bases being farmers.
I think he's like putting a face on to be the man of the people, but he's really not.
But yeah, that's.
And Zach Polanski is.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's as simple as if you don't like reform, you like green. I don't think it's as simple as that. I like neither. I sit in the middle.
I think that party politics is awful altogether. I mean, it doesn't benefit anybody.
Another hot take.
As opposed to.
Yeah, what's the alternative
But that's
to
the thing.
party politics?
This is what I was trying to get on before. I mean, what would the alternative be? I mean, of course, Labour's funded by the unions and Conservatives are funded by the elites. But what would be the alternative to this? Because you simply cannot fund politics if you do not have the sponsors. Is there an alternative? Maybe not. Maybe it's wishful thinking, as Samson said earlier.
Speaking about the sponsorship, though, I think the sponsorship that some companies have, it's quite. It dictates in their policy. Like for Green, for example, is a strong example. Like they don't like nuclear energy because they're supported by numerous renewable energy sources.
This episode is sponsored by Fuse Energy.
We're going to get sued.
Oil and gas.
One day it's going to haunt us.
Well, that's the thing. Oh, yeah.
Oil is the people's energy.
Ooh.
Oil is the fuel of the
You sound like Trump.
of the proletariat. That's the thing, is that Trump and reform. Everyone calls them parties of the right, but really, so many of their policies are so economically left-wing. I mean, nationalising Thames Water, nationalising the railways. They really are this odd new movement of kind of... well, I wouldn't say new, actually. It's more... this movement of conservative policies.
Yeah, social conservatism, economic on the left,
Yeah.
essentially. But it's not that new, I think. I don't think it's that new. It's that new. I just think it's the evolution of that sort of working class politics post. I almost want to say post Boris wave. I was going to say post Thatcher, but really it's post Boris wave, because Boris wave was the last example of a real party sweeping up the sort of lower middle class to working class vote.
Okay, let's move on to a new question. Let's ask Adam.
No.
Okay.
Once again.
Now, I don't personally know a lot of Reform's policies, but is
What
You probably know more than their
policies?
voters, though. with the great numbers.
yes.
A lot more than their voters.
But if you were to choose one of Reform's policies, are any of them actually good?
But Reform doesn't push their policies; they push their brand. They
Yes,
push
yes.
they say they don't say we will
They thrive off
write
emotions.
the national budget by so and so and so. They say we will write the national budget, and and they never expand on how they're actually going to do it.
Even what they do say, I'm not sure you can trust, because they're known to be hypocrites at this point. They said, we won't increase council tax. Now, in every single constituency they control, they have increased council tax.
Oh yeah, their policies are more an afterthought than the kind of vanguard
Oh, yeah,
of
of
their
course.
argument.
Yeah.
They just
Unlike
swept with
the Liberal
momentum.
Democrats, who white paper all of their policies when they think of them. So actually, whereas Labour was totally unprepared for government. I'm just saying, if you can vote next time, I think we all know who the best party is.
This podcast is brought to you by the Liberal Democrats.
Ed Davey.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. It's been a very interesting debate. And
As always.
glad that we can do it civilly and respectfully. Thank you very
Civilly and
much.
respectfully.
Yeah, but it's great. This episode is sponsored by Montrose Health Group.
They offer personalised ADHD and mental health assessments, both in person and online.
If you're looking for trusted care, visit them at montrosehealthgroup.com to book today.